Ready for some marketing love? Excellent. Then join me for some funny business with me old mate AG as we cover some serious marketing ground.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Australia's #1 marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, so much more importantly, are a motivated small business owner ready to crank out some great marketing. And that's how we roll around here. Massive, massive show for you today. As if any episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show isn't massive, this is a particularly big one because it involves some primates. You'll know what I mean by that very shortly. Here's what we're going to cover. How to get more done with less. Who doesn't want to do that? Got a new sponsor announcement with a nice little listener freebie attached to it, just for you. And we're going to talk about when it's time to give your website a rather large tickle, plus a lot more. So I would suggest kind of grabbing a notepad, pen, cuppa, or whatever brew floats your boat and get ready for some marketing GOLD.
Small Business Big Marketing with Tim Reid.
Now, as you can hear, there are some monkey noises in the background. I am walking towards the monkey cage, and there is very good reason for that. You're probably wondering, what is all that monkey noise about? But it is time for another episode of Funny Business with me old mate Andrew Griffiths. Now, if you're a new listener to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, I do this segment every now and then with me old mate Griffo, who happens to be, by the way, Australia's #1 small business author. Hang on, I'm just making my way through opening the cage door. There we go. There he is. He's also published in more countries than Playboy magazine, by the way. He's an all-round good guy. And there he is, swinging from the tree. How are you, Griffo?
I want to talk to someone about the quality of bananas in this cage. They're definitely going downhill since I was here last.
You are a very high-maintenance monkey, and I didn't realise that bananas were on your rider when you agreed to doing this show.
I can't work under these conditions.
Well, get used to it, mate, because we're very frugal at the Small Business Big Marketing headquarters, unlike your palatial palace up in far north Queensland.
I know. We live large in North Queensland.
Boy, do you ever, mate. Large. You well?
Very well, thank you, Timbo. Great to be back on the show. Wonderful to hear what's going on, and absolutely looking forward to spending a little bit of time talking about marketing gold with you, in amongst bananas and you paying out on me and me paying out on you and all the usual stuff.
Did you like those lolly bananas as a kid?
I did, actually. Yes, I did. Yeah, I used to eat them by the thousand, as you can probably tell.
Correct. You and me both, mate. We'll blame that. We'll blame that for the Michelin tire each of us share around our midriff.
I know. I love it. Hey, now, have you got any clues about who this new sponsor is? What's the go? I always like that kind of stuff.
Griffo,
I'm a commercial guy.
I'm going to hold you in suspenders for a few minutes more. And I know how much you love the old suspenders. So, I'm excited, mate. I am really proud to announce who the new sponsor is, and particularly chuffed the fact that they're giving something away to listeners. So stay tuned for that. But speaking of sponsors, buddy, before we get stuck in, because we've got a fair bit of marketing ground to cover, Net Registry, wonderful old sponsor of the show. They get all your online marketing sorted. Do you know that?
Love it. But I've been work with Net Registry for years myself. Very good guys.
They are good, mate. I love the fact that they've got a simple 3-step process. They get you a domain, they get you a website, and then they help grow your business online. So that's I can't get any more kind of simpler than that. And then growing your business online means a bit of search engine optimization, means a bit of pay-per-click advertising in terms of Google AdWords, Facebook ads, all that type of stuff. And it's exactly what they do. And small business owners, as we are going to talk about very shortly, can't do it all themselves.
And also trying to figure out when do you need to get a new website, which was one of our conversations. You know, do I need to? When do I need to? How do you figure all that stuff out? So, very relevant.
We are going to smash through a whole lot of that. So, team, head over to netregistry.com.au to get all your online marketing sorted and tell them Timbo sent you.
Now, mate, before we move on to anything else, can I possibly ask you, or perhaps acknowledge you, because I know that you're a little bit shy, you're a little bit girly about this kind of stuff. The 200th episode was last week. Was that right?
It was.
Recently. The last episode was the 200th episode. Yeah. I had a look at some clips on YouTube. A lot of love in the room, mate. A lot of people have saying a lot of great things. Obviously, all of them were paid to say most of those things, which I understand. One of the comments that I really admired the most was Mr. Mark Penny, and he picked up very astutely. He said, "In spite of all the dad jokes, this show is still the most extraordinary one for transforming his business and all the rest of it." So I don't know what he meant by that.
I get smashed about my dad jokes, which you know what? If they don't make anyone else laugh, it's bad luck because they make me laugh and I get a genuine sort of giggle out of them.
Tell me, did you ever really think you'd hit 200 shows? Think back to the first one.
Oh, cliched. No, not really. Didn't think about it full stop. Didn't give it an ounce of thought. I just realised that very early on in the podcasting journey, I enjoy doing it, enjoy helping businesses with their marketing and exposing them to marketing ideas that they might not have previously considered. So that kind of scoreboard of episode numbers didn't really come into it. And still, I mean, I don't think 200, I don't know, what's so special about 200, like at what point do you go, there's a special number? But it was very nice. I did get a lovely video from, in fact, a whole lot of forum members put it together. From what I understand, Nick May, a long-time forum member and listener of the show, suggested it. My mates Mick and editor Mick Cullen, my mechanic Mick, I call him, he helped put it together with Paul, my editor. And I just want to say, Griffo, very quickly, a thank you to Nick, Sarah and Lindsay, Meppy Man, Rowan, Leanne, Ben, Luke, Rossi and Arn for starring in it, and I'll put a link. It was just a thank you video to me from them. I'll put a link to it in the show notes for episode 201 at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com because it was very touching. And Griffo, it came at a time. It got emailed to me last week. I was on the plane that morning when I heard of Robin Williams passing. I cried twice last week is what I'm going to tell you. I cried twice. Robin Williams is passing a very sad time, and I talked about that on last week's episode. And then I got that video, and I cried out of joy for that because it was very humbling to hear people's views on how the show's affected them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do know that you're very humble about it, but I think I'm going to speak for the rest of us when I say we think what you do is extraordinary. The fact that you're a crybaby, we can get past that. But you do, just watching the video, everyone, I don't have, there's nothing that I do in Australia, whether it's media that I'm in or anything else, where I get the same response from people walking up to me, even in the street, saying, "Hey, I listen to you and Timbo. I listen to Timbo's show all the time. It's transformed my business." I hear it all the time, and it's easy to get desensitized for you if you hear it all the time. But mate, I think it's extraordinary, and I think you make a huge difference to many, many thousands of small business owners around Australia and internationally. So good on you. Even if you don't acknowledge it, good on you, mate. I know there's a lot of people out there that are going woohoo and clapping really loudly at the moment because you've done an extraordinary thing, and I certainly notice it and appreciate you for it.
Good on you, mate. I really appreciate the words. Let's get stuck in to some marketing gold. Now, Griffo, getting more done with less. That would be, I would call that business nirvana, not just marketing nirvana, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And it's the bane of the average business owner, or the bane of all of us.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, our lives are ruled by everything, whether it be email, getting stuff done, more and more demands on our time. I think I hear it all the time. You hear it all the time. We all say it all the time. We don't have enough time.
Yeah, and it's a limiting belief, this time thing, I must say. I know some people would. You agree?
Absolutely. Why do some people get so much done and others don't? Same amount of time.
Totally. But we don't, you don't have to do it all. And this is where this whole outsourcing thing, offshoring thing comes in. I like to talk, and I've touched on it before, but I'd like to do it again in a little bit more detail, the concept of a virtual marketing team. And I want, there's a lot of listeners who are busy with their business and they're not getting around to getting more marketing done, to getting a whole lot of things done in their business they know they should. Don't have to. The world's changed. The world has changed, and we can let's just keep it to a marketing discussion, surround ourselves with marketing specialists without spending a fortune.
And talk about change. I think it's interesting. I mean, I know for me, in my own business where I used to employ a pile of people and went through that road to now where it's just me doing what I'm doing. I mean, I really don't have any employees. And I look at that and one of the biggest point I'm going to take out of this is people call me a lifestyle entrepreneur, which I think means you're a lazy bum, basically. but I've been priding myself saying, look, I do everything myself and I outsource stuff and all the rest of it. But I think that you've got to make sure that you do, you're very clear, rather, on what stuff you're doing that you really shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that's a cliche, again, to say that, but I find even myself now, I'm just at the stage where I've got to get a virtual assistant. Again, I've got to outsource more simply because I'm doing too much stuff, and it's not stuff that I enjoy. You get 300 or 400 emails a day. You can't physically process that stuff. There's, your marketing is not as good because you are, too busy trying to do your own stuff and amongst everything else. So I think for me, the first thing you got to say, admit that you need help and then get it. That's probably the start.
Yeah. And you know what? I was giving a talk about 4 or 5 weeks ago on my talk was sharing a whole lot of marketing ideas with some business owners, as I do. And one of them put up their hand and talked, and I just brushed over this concept of the virtual marketing team. And they pulled me up and they said, hey, can you just go back to that virtual marketing team concept, because we don't know anything. We don't know what you're talking about. You mentioned this word outsourcing, Timbo. What are you talking about? Sometimes we can assume too much, and that you and I, because we live in this space, kind of know it. Whereas the average small business owner who's listening, who might own, it might be a dentist or a plumber or a masseuse. I don't know. It
must be a French masseuse.
But they don't know about this. So listeners, Griffo and I want to give you some help in finding more time in getting some marketing stuff off your desk that others can do. The virtual marketing team, simple concept, surround yourself with A players who specialise in a particular aspect of marketing. Could be design, could be copywriting, could be web development, could be search engine optimization, could be illustration, whatever. And surround yourself with people who can do it. And it's very, very empowering when you can get some stuff off your desk like that.
I think, though, the issue comes in that the people go, I understand the value of outsourcing and getting that stuff out of my office and getting it off of my desk. But it always comes back to that point of well, where do I find these people? And how do I know if they're any good or not? How do I, those kind of questions come up. Like I don't really know what I need. That's the next part. So you look at it all of a sudden and say, well, I'm going to outsource my entire marketing team. No. And that can be just way too overwhelming. I think it's almost like starting off small. Maybe you start off with a designer. So you say, well, I might outsource design. Correct.
And it is a thing where you've got to put your toe in the water and feel what it's like to pass off again, we'll keep it to marketing, a marketing task that you might have been doing forever, or you've just not had done because you didn't know where to do it, or it was too expensive to get it done. So do one thing, outsource one thing, and feel what it's like. Get used to it. Get used to working with probably someone not in the same state, maybe not even in the same country. Mm-hmm. Again, my virtual marketing team, I've got David, who's an Englishman living in Mexico. He does the show notes. G'day, David. He does the show notes for this every episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. Nicola, designer in Serbia. I have got Paul, who's in Melbourne. Paul edits the show. So I've got people all over the place doing different aspects for me. And it is a bit of a leap to when you've all of a sudden surrounding yourself with a team that are in all different parts of the world. So
how did you do it in answer to that question?
Do you know what? This is actually leading into a discussion about my new sponsor. Right. But it's funny you should ask that, seriously, because my very first foray into outsourcing about 7 years ago was when I found Nicola, my designer in Serbia. And I found Nicola on, drumroll, 99 Designs. Mm-hmm. And team, they are the new sponsor of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. What's that?
Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome company to have as a sponsor.
Awesome. Originally founded in Melbourne and now global. They're based in San Francisco. I know they'll be listening to this show, so hello, Kira, for your very kind choice to partner with Australia's #1 marketing show. But I did find Nicola on 99 Designs. Now, let me explain. This 99 Designs offers a classic solution to the idea of getting more done with less, Griffo, because all of a sudden you can get a whole lot of design stuff done quickly and relatively inexpensively. Let me explain 99 Designs. Basically, you can get designs for T-shirts, brochures, car wraps, logos, all your marketing touch points, any marketing touch point basically done. And it's just a design competition. So you literally go to 99 Designs, you post a brief and they take you through the process. They ask you all the right questions that you need to answer in order to get your brief right. You nominate an amount of prize money and then you post that competition on the 99 Designs website, and designers from all over the world come and respond to that brief, not with a proposal, but with finished designs. It's quite incredible. And all of a sudden, you are there. You got dozens over a 7-day period. You can expect dozens and dozens of designers to respond with low-res files that you can look at, review, comment on, make changes to, and shortlist, with a view to then choosing the winning designer who hands over the high-res files and you hand over the prize money. Pretty amazing.
The thing that I like, I've used 99 Designs quite a bit over the last few years, I guess, since they started up, was actually the competition element. I love the competition element, but the feedback element. So you can invite 20 people to, I guess, as many people as you like, to be able to kind of review selected, I guess, entries. And I find that's always been handy. I have friends of mine who've got book cover designs. One of my illustration, my face illustration was done on 99 Designs.
Really? Yeah. How long did that take out of interest? That would have been months.
It was a stroking. It was beautiful work. Beautiful work. And obviously the raw materials they had to work with.
Yeah, they were working for just absolutely it's like Michelangelo working from the finest bit of marble.
Of course, it's the finest in the land. But it's an interesting kind of way. And I think it's another point about talking about outsourcing and, making our life a little bit easier. I think 99 Designs is a great way to put a toe in the water for anyone who's a bit overwhelmed by the concept of doing it as well, because it is so structured, it's so easy, it's so clear. Yeah. It's a great way to get used to saying, well, it doesn't really matter who I'm working with and where they're located as long as they're delivering the goods. And I think that's what it's all about. The same can apply if you're going to do, outsource something anywhere else. Start small, as you said. Yes. Try something little and just get a feel for that process.
And you know what it does? Again, outsourcing, it allows you to try some things that you might have been hesitant to try locally because it was too expensive, or you didn't know where to go, or you didn't know the person who was best for the job. Whereas I found having Nicola, for example, who again I found on 99 Designs, he allows me to try things, and it's actually not going to cost me a fortune. So if you think, maybe I wonder what a new logo would look like. And you can test that out for a few $100 as opposed to maybe spending thousands.
Well, and I've certainly done that in the past where I've, to get conceptuals done for websites or logos, spent thousands and thousands of dollars done when all I actually really wanted was just to get a bit of a feel, to visualize it a bit, where I'd be happy to spend maybe $500 to get a look and feel for a website or an idea for a brochure, just something fresh. And I find that that's where I've used outsourcing and 99 Designs in this case to provide alternatives. Now, sometimes I haven't even ended up using the material for what I'd intended it for, but I've kept it and I've used it elsewhere because I really like what they did. Hence, that illustration that I spoke about, that little logo illustration that I use as my Facebook icon and all the rest of it, I use that and I'm incorporating that into my new website. Correct. Yet at the time, I was looking at a new logo, but it didn't really work as a new logo, but it worked as a nice element of my brand. So, it's a great approach. It's certainly a nice, easy way for people to get started.
They even do book covers, Griffo. You'd like that.
Anything that's going to help people get books out, I'm very, very happy about. You know the way that works.
I do. Hey, listeners, I encourage you to go and start adding to your virtual marketing team. A great place to start is to get a designer for, as I said, any touch. Could be a logo, could be a brochure, could simply be a little poster idea that you've got. And if you go to 99designs.com/SBBM for Small Business Big Marketing, they will give you a free $99 power pack that will actually upgrade your listing so that more people see it. It gives you a bold listing. It'll highlight it with a prominent background, and it will put it to the top of the page, which means on average you'll get 185% more designs. Got to love that, Griffo. So,
love that.
99designs.com/SBBM. Righto, Griffo. Now, you sent me a very interesting topic to discuss. Quote unquote, my business has been going for 5 years. It used to be successful. It isn't now. Why not? What was that all about?
It's funny how topics come up on a regular basis, or maybe not on a regular basis, but all of a sudden you'll have 5 people at the same conference will come and say the same thing. I'm looking and spending a lot of time presenting and talking to people in businesses and in industries where I'm hearing this kind of thing very often. I've been in business 5 years. It was super successful. It isn't now. I just don't understand my customers. I feel disconnected, or even worse. I've been in business for 10 years. Used to be super successful, and now I'm almost bankrupt. What has changed around that type of thing? And I figured a lot of time our advice and information is for people that are perhaps early on in business. What about those a little bit further down the line that have been around for a while, that maybe their industry is going through change, or whatever the market's changing? And I think the first part of it is really understanding, well, what does that tell you? You know, if you've been in business for a certain amount of time and business has dropped off dramatically, there are a number of reasons for that. And I thought maybe let's talk about what some of those reasons are first. Then we can talk a bit about what you need to do about it.
Yep,
so what are your thoughts, mate? Where would you start? What does that tell you? I would start,
mate, you mentioned one, the market has changed and you've not kept up. Sometimes we can take for granted what we did. You and I were talking about, but just before we went on air, the idea of, we're both speakers and we speak a lot in all sorts of different forums, and you've got to keep reinventing yourself. Every business needs to keep reinventing themselves, otherwise people will kind of go, oh, well, nothing's changed, we'll move on. So maybe the market has changed.
Yep.
What's that?
They just think same. You become beige. You blend into the background.
Absolutely. What do they say? If you think what you've always thought, you'll do what you've always done. If you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. So
absolutely.
I think there's a bit of that. I think sometimes business owners that have been around for so long, well, not so long, but 5 or 10 years, have they fallen out of love with the business? And you and I have talked on previous occasions on this show about, that reflects. I mean, customers see how you feel. Sometimes we think we can hide our feelings. I'm not sure that's the case. And if you've fallen out of love with the business, that may be reflecting, on your bottom line.
Absolutely.
And my third point, sorry, we're probably going to go one for one here, but I'll give you my third point. I love it. You say you love me.
Well, I do love you, but I love it as well.
Oh, I love it. You've lost your point of difference, and you might have had a point of difference when you started, and I think point of differences are really hard to find. I was talking about this at a conference just late last week. But your point of difference can come from building a strong brand, building an emotional attachment, come from great customer service, which I think, again, many businesses don't kind of spend too much time on. So, yeah, there you go, three things.
And again, I agree with all of them. And I mean, my thoughts are that I would add to this is sometimes I think we make the wrong assumptions. We think we've been in business for a long time. Everyone knows me. Everyone knows my business. That's a major assumption that people get wrong. I see it, and for example, I live in a regional part of the world, spend most of my time in Sydney and Melbourne, but I live in a place like Cairns. People are moving. They're moving around so dramatically. I have friends of mine say this all the time. Someone walked into the shop today and they said, "Oh, how long have you been here? Are you just new?" And they'll turn around and say, "No, my business has been here for 25 years." And that's the assumption that everyone knows your business exists is a dangerous one. And that ties back into marketing, doesn't it? That's why if you're not marketing, so over the last 4 or 5 years, business has been good, the cash register's full. Oh, do I really need to spend this money on marketing? Do I really need to do this all all this stuff when it's already good. You and I know that's a death knell. That thought is a death knell. So you got to be, the marketing you do today is for your business tomorrow. You know, so it's an investment today for tomorrow. The other one is another one, and I've got a couple as well here, is I think that once a business reaches a certain type of success, the owner can sometimes take the eye off the ball, their eyes off the ball. So what it is, instead of focusing about that customer connection and making sure that everything is neat, tight, all the right things are happening, they start looking at Excel spreadsheets and start spending more time in the back office. And the distance between the owner and the customers is greatly increased so that they're not having as much interaction. And then I think they lose touch with exactly what the customers want, how the market's changing, all of those kind of things come into it.
I love, just to that point, it's one very close to my heart, is that if you have been in business a long time, maybe you haven't been out onto the shop floor if it's a retail outlet, or maybe you just haven't got in front of your clients, past and present. Observe them. Just watch them from a distance if you are, in a retail outlet, or just catching up with them and seeing how they're going. I don't think we do that enough. I've used this example previously in a past show where, in fact, Phil McKinney, who is the creator of the Killer Innovations process, he used to be the vice president at Hewlett-Packard in the States. Very senior guy. He would make a point of going out into Best Buy outlets in America of a Saturday morning and watching people buy laptops.
Yeah, wow.
And he'd just see, and then he'd watch them. He'd try not to be too weird about it, but afterwards, once they'd selected one, he'd walk up and give them his card and say, "Hey, listen, look, I am the vice president over at Hewlett-Packard of Innovation, and why'd you choose that one, or why didn't you choose ours, or what?"
Awesome.
That stuff, and just getting back to grassroots marketing.
Well, another example of that, I was on a flight from Launceston to Melbourne last week.
3-minute flight?
So it was very quick. And anyway, this chap got up and started speaking. He obviously knew everyone. He got on the plane and he's talking to the hosties and the flight attendants and the cabin, and he was allowed in the cockpit, so either he was a terrorist or he knew something that we didn't. Anyway, he grabs the PA and starts talking, and I kind of went, "Oh, maybe we're going to be hijacked here." He didn't look like a hijacker, though. No. He looked too nice. Anyway, he said, "Oh, my name's David Hall, I think it is. I'm the CEO of Jetstar. And I'm on this flight. I'd like to say welcome you. Thanks for choosing. You had an option, and there's plenty of other airlines to choose from, etc. I'm on this flight. I'm in seat 12B or 12C. He said, if you have got anything that you want to share with me, tell me good stories, bad stories. We know we don't get it right all the time. Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
And then please come and talk to me. It's only a short flight, but I will try and fit in as many people.
I know why he chose the short flight.
I know. He didn't do it on a Sydney to Perth flight, did he? But I, and he knew the names of the hosties, knew the names of the pilot. I found it really intriguing, and I thought, you know what, that really changed my opinion of Jetstar. I'm not going to fly them anymore, but I really liked what he did.
Did he? Just for overseas listeners, Jetstar is Australia's. I was going to say budget airline. There's one below it, Tiger, but it's pretty basic. Did a whole lot of people go up to seat 12D, Griffo?
Yeah, absolutely. People shared good and bad, and he made himself open, accessible. It was just an interesting kind of thing about being connected to your customers, to be able to. I mean, it was a very good lesson. Like the guy with the laptops. Like I've seen, a lot of great leaders, from Richard Branson through to Tom Potter from Eagle Boys Pizza. Those kind of people. Same thing. You've got to stay connected with your audience. And all too often, and we think, well, they're big companies. If the CEO of Jetstar can get up and do that on a flight, surely we as small business owners can and be much more, stay really connected to our customers.
A great tip that was given to me by my speaking coach was to make sure that when I am speaking, and assuming it's logistically possible, although it always is to be at the door when people are coming into the room that you're about to speak at. Don't appear from behind the stage like some wanker. Like, actually be there and shake hands, eyeball. How are you? What's that?
Kiss babies.
I don't know about kissing babies. That gets awkward. But I'll leave that to you.
But I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Little things. Couple of other quick ones.
Go.
You've been in business for a while and your business is not going well. It probably means that you're not getting word of mouth referrals, and that can relate to the things that you were talking about, Timbo. Your service has dropped, taking the eye off the ball there again. Something's changed. If you're not getting word of mouth referrals, there's a problem. Maybe you're just not asking for them. Different market these days. Can I
tell you a story?
Yeah, please do.
So word of mouth, tick that box every day of the week, chase it. But word of mouth, hey,
totally. That's my favourite.
Is your favourite. Now, word of mouth, listeners, clearly that's when, you get other people to promote your business, probably often voluntarily because, they liked what you did, so they share it on Facebook or they tweet it or whatever. Now, Griffo, I had my dashboard fixed last week. It was peeling. Yeah, I know. The leather peeling off it. I had to get it fixed. Didn't want to replace it. $5,500 to replace it.
This is in the Morris Minor.
Yeah, the Morris Minor. Yeah. The sun got to it without the roof. But anyway, the guy fixed it. He said, do you like the job? I said, absolutely loved it. He said, do you mind sharing it on Facebook? Take a photo, sharing it on Facebook. I said, would be more than happy to because it was such a great job. But I digress, but it is a funny story.
I love it.
Hey, that's a great topic, Griffo. If you are, listeners, if you have been in business for 5 years and you're wondering why things are pointing south, not north, that's for anyone in the Southern Hemisphere, then there's a few ways of maybe redirecting that little arrow.
Absolutely, and I think where it starts, mate, is you've got to do a bit of self-review. You've got to put your hand on your heart and go, right, why is it not working? What's changed? What have I stopped doing? What do I need to be doing more of? How's the market changed? Open your eyes, get out and have a look around. But it indicates that there's a problem, and if you don't do something about it, it's only going to get worse. So you've got to really step up and do something pretty serious about it. That's my take on that. Not very funny, but very true.
Righto, Griffo. Now, you are you are in the process of redoing your website, and you ask a very good question here about how do you know when it's time to completely redo or get a new website?
Well, and I wanted to ask you that specifically because, you're the guru of all things that plug in.
Oh, here we go.
Is basically the online, Stradivarius of that, kind of world. For me, it's like, I know from my marketing days, you would look at a company and go, well, look at their branding and say, well, that's dated. You need to upgrade your brand. With websites, you can look at it and go, well, your website looks a bit old and doesn't kind of really do you justice. But how do you really determine that? Like, how do you know that your website needs to be updated?
Well,
how would you answer that?
When I saw this question of yours come through, I'm in two minds. I interviewed a fellow, episode 132 of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. His name was Alan Dick, and he was from Vintage Tub and Bath. Now, Vintage Tub and Bath sell millions of dollars of bathtubs a year online, right?
Wow.
Through their website only. And I looked at his website before the interview, and I've gone, wow. This is a very, very average, old, dated website. So I get him on knowing that it's a successful website, but it's very ugly and old. And I said that to him. I said, hey, Alan, mate, you're selling a lot of baths online, but she's a crook old virtual shop front. He said, look, I know. He said, and you can go back and listen to the interview. He said, we haven't updated that website in 7 years, but it's still going really well. So at that point you go, well, why would you change anything? It's interesting. Before we started this interview today, I went back and had a look, and he has actually updated the website. So maybe he took something from that chat. But then I do think we need to keep things fresh and contemporary. Whether that means reinventing it from scratch, or whether it just means making sure that you're continually evolving your online footprint, in particular your website. It's really up to you how much time and money and energy you've got to do it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's one of those funny ones, isn't it? Like, I look at a site like that, and often what I found in the past is it's more even if it's successful now, it's what it could be doing.
Yes.
You look at that and say, well, if he's doing $2 million a year with a great site, he theoretically could be doing $4 million a year. Possibly. Because if I was a new customer and I just turned up and looked at it, I would probably not be that interested in it because it would not look that professional to me. And I guess that's the moral of the story. It depends who your customers are and what your website is for. For people like you and I and the work we're doing, I guess probably for everyone, really. A lot of it is about credibility. Your site has to, people have to look at it and say you're credible. Yep. If they look at your site and go, well, you're a bit dodgy, then that obviously has a big impact. I mean, so I don't think you can be as definitive and say, well, you should have a new website every 3 years. I don't think it ever works that way. But you got to perhaps ask yourself that question: is my website reflecting me in the way that I want it to?
But I also come across more website owners than not who aren't happy with their website. So here's the thing. I think many people listening have probably got a website and it's the first website they've had for their business. And they got it up because they thought they needed a website, and some web developer or designer or family friend said, I'll get you a website and, here it is, and go for gold. And they got it up and they got it online, and, they probably forgot about it. And now it's time. It's like that second iteration. Now it's time to really up the ante and make it the website that is really going to do your business the most justice. So, what if the first question is what's the role of having a website for your business? Is it to sell stuff? Is it to build a list? Is it to establish credibility? Is it for people to pick up the phone and call you? I mean, why have you got a website? There's not many businesses, I think, that shouldn't have a website. So based on the assumption that you should have a website, get clear on why. And I think you can have a number of whys on a website. Like, it might be, I want to establish credibility, but I also want people to call me. So you have different calls to action on different pages. I also think part of that too is that if you are ready for the second iteration of your website, and I think you're even further down the track of that.
This is my fourth.
By now, and I must say, when I saw your last iteration, I think I might have said to you too, Griffo, that there's a lot in it. Boy, oh boy, there was a lot in it. It was a very, very content-heavy site, which normally, that's great, but there are a lot of places to click, a lot of places to go to. By now, you should know there's probably an 80-20 rule applying, which says, 80% of people are going to 20% of the site. So either get rid of the other bits of the site or really fade them into the background.
Again, yes and no, though. See, the reasoning behind my website is totally credibility, isn't it? So I want someone to look at it who's going to book me for a speaking job, not necessarily someone who's going to buy a book alone. It's a bigger value thing. So even though there's a lot of depth, by showing the depth for me was part of my strategy around actually getting media and getting speaking jobs, simply because they go, oh, this guy does that, does all of that. You're right. They would never have investigated most of it. But the comment that I got back, which was like my KPI for it, was, wow, you do a lot of stuff. You really are clearly the guy in this space that we need to talk to. And that language is what I heard all the time. So for me, my site was purely a credibility tool. It was not a sales tool. It wasn't really even a list building tool or any of that stuff. It's just if Channel 7 looked at my site, they go, yep, this is the guy we'd want to interview. So your question there at the beginning was spot on. I think, what do you want this site for?
Oh, yeah.
That's, and I don't think necessarily people spend enough time doing that. Like, do you want it to be, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to pick up the phone and make an appointment and come and see you? And I think you got that whole big start with a why. It's such a wonderful, wonderful thing that often gets lost in a web developer's encouragement or over enthusiasm. We want to do this and we want to do that. And you get a bit caught up in it because you don't necessarily, they're the experts, they're the authority as such, but they don't know your business and they don't know what you're trying to achieve. So if those are not the words that are coming out when you're briefing a web developer, they're not asking you that kind of stuff, then I think that's a bit of a concern as well. A pretty website is not enough.
Not enough at all. And I always draw the analogy of architect and builder when we're talking about websites. And I think, someone's got to ask you, like a good architect will ask you, how do you want to tell us about your ideal home and how are you going to live in it? How are you going to use it? What does success look like from us designing a home for you? And likewise for a website, it's like, what do I really want people to do having visited this website? So, I know that, again, there's a lot of service-based businesses who listen to this show. For me, people buy from people, whether it's service-based or product-based. So maybe you need to I'm just using this as an example, but be more people-orientated. Introduce yourself and the team more up front than hiding it under some About Us page.
Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Exactly. Well, and I think you've got to take into consideration the times are changing. Should you write your website in the first person or third person? Should it come from you, or should it be written like someone's talking about your business? I believe it should be in the first person these days. Now, not always, but generally, if you're a smaller business and you're proud of your business, personally, I think that we want that. Hi, my name's Bill, and I run an auto electric store, and this is what we do. I service this area because this is where I live, and my clients become my friends, and I will always do the best job because I know I'm going to run into them down the street or whatever it is. So you're really becoming much more personal around your story, as opposed to Bill Smith's auto electric store was started in 1973, and he does auto electrical stuff. And you kind of go, well, it really doesn't tell me anything. I think there's that wonderful desire, and I think that's one of the biggest changes that I'm seeing is around that desire for people to tell more story. Let me know more about your business. So trying to bring that in. And that's not that easy to write a website in that way for a lot of people. It's very confronting, and it feels a bit personal.
Talking about yourself. It's talking about yourself. That's what it's
difficult. It's a big topic, isn't it?
It's a great topic. It almost deserves an entire episode, if not a workshop, Griffo. But by the way, Net Registry have got a plethora of information. Plethora of information on, website content and how to structure websites and all that type of stuff. One thing I'll leave you on, just on this discussion, Griffo, two things. If you're listening and you're going, you need to update your website, don't panic. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just start the process, because it's not like you're getting a brochure designed, you're going to print 1,000 and then you're stuck with it. It's infinitely changeable. Just start to, figure out what your website, a good place to start is the navigation bar. What are the navigation buttons? I don't think for most businesses they need to be any more complicated than a home page, an about us page, a services or products page, a blog, and a contact us page. And I also like the idea, I'm calling it a 101 section of websites, but they're also like a frequently asked questions section where you answer all the questions that people would have about working with you. So that's nice. Where you'd start. The second one is, just to finish too, is that, and I said this before in a recent episode, Google, with their Hummingbird update last October, demand helpful, unique, relevant content produced regularly. All right, helpful, unique, relevant content produced regularly, which basically says, and a blog is a place where you can do that, where you can just share the knowledge that you have on your website on an ongoing basis. So that's where a website really comes into its own, because all of a sudden you're creating a wonderfully helpful resource that's online for people to find you.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree all around. Don't be overwhelmed by it. Just start at the beginning, and just that's my only point would be to let your personality shine through your website.
Don't get me started on personality, Griffo. That is an episode. Mark that down for the next funny business.
I'm marking it down. When did I become your secretary? Personality. Is that because, are you trying to give me a hint of some sort? Correct. We need to talk about, that'll be a counselling session, folks, more than anything else.
Correct. All right, now, Griffo, what is your approach to doing freebies? Let's talk freebies. Is it begrudging? Do you treat them as paid work? What's your view?
It's interesting, and it's a great topic. I mean, we all end up doing freebies, don't we? It's just a way of life and the way of being in small business. And I think I'll go back a step and say that what really bugs me is when someone agrees to do a job for free, for whatever reason, and then they treat you like a second-rate citizen. Mm-hmm. But I'm a believer that if you agree to do something, like if I'm going to do a talk for someone for free, for whatever reason, I'm going to treat that exactly the same as if I was getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. That's been my philosophy. I don't differentiate. It's like when people barter and say, well, I'll do this for you, you do that for me. Then you always put on the bottom of the list because it's only barter, it's not real money. My belief is you should treat freebies exactly the same.
That's fair, but go back a step. Mm-hmm. When do you say, what's your overall overall view on freebies?
Okay. I mean, I think you have to be careful. I get a ton of requests. People will send me a question and it'll be something like lines, "Oh, hi, I'm in small business. I want to know about how to make a brochure and how to build a website and to network and to get more sales and what products I should buy and how I should employ people." Could you just answer that for me?
I got a letter like that 2 days ago. Someone, in fact, they even warned me. They saw me speak about 2 weeks ago and then said, I'll send you a note and I just got a few questions for you. Boy, oh boy, it was a year's consulting that was being demanded for free.
And you got to laugh and you got to admire it and all that kind of stuff, but it's so hard to do that. So so for me, when it comes to freebies, I've got to make that decision and say to people. So I found I had to have a mechanism. I used to say yes to everything just because I had difficulty saying no to people. So what I had to do was, in that situation, for example, if I didn't want to do it as a freebie, because there's kind of no reason to, was I have a standard email that just goes out and says, "Hey, look, I'd love to help. I do this commercially. I can do a one-on-one session with you as X amount of dollars," that kind of thing. And it's, it's fair. But there are times, without a doubt, where I will certainly do stuff for free because it resonates with me. The person resonates. I just want to help them, whatever the case may be. I've got a bit of time on that scenario. So whatever the help might be, typically, it might be like doing a presentation for a not-for-profit. Salvation Army ring me, can you come down to
every day of the week?
So you get a lot of those. For me, I've got to say, can I do it? Do I want to do it? Is it aligned with who I am? Is the brand right? All those things. I have that little mental checklist, and if I want to do it and I commit, then I'm committed and I'll do it.
Yep.
And that's my little process. But I did find a couple of years ago for me that I had to start saying no, because what happened was I was doing all this free work, and 1 week I had like 4 days where all of my time was done for free. And it was like doing this for the RSPCA and the Salvos and the Harold's House, a homeless kid shelter and all the rest of it. And I realised that if I wasn't careful, I was actually going to need all of these facilities that I was helping. And I think you got to draw the line a little bit and have an allowance of free stuff. You can't do it all the time, and you've got to say, well, most importantly, do you want to do it? Are you happy to do it?
Have some criteria, as you have some boxes or filters that if it passes the checklist of, it's on brand, I like the people, I've got the time, whatever those filters are, then you go and do it. I grew up in an advertising agency, and ideas were often considered to be sort of part of the free service that clients would expect it. And so I had my general manager at the time, Mark Pearce. He was a lovely fellow, and we'd sit down each month and do the art cards. And the art cards were where we'd allocate time and money against each job. How much time the art director spend, the copywriter spend. Oh, and Tim, how much are you going to charge for concept development? And it would always put the fear of God into me, because I knew the client would ring and go, Tim, what's this concept development fee? But boy, I reflect back on it now, and he was spot on, because that concept development fee was the time that we'd put in to coming up with the idea that the art director or the copywriter then worked on. So I think sometimes the lesson is we often undervalue or don't value at all our ideas or our time, and I think we've got to. And the free thing, I mean, you often get asked, I often try to think about this. There's a great quote. When someone says, "Can I pick your brain, Griffo?" Can you remember?
I'll buy you a cup of coffee.
But there's a smart ass response that I've once read. I can't remember what it was, but it was very clever. It was like there's that story of Picasso, in the cafe where the lady comes up and asks for his signature, and he signs a napkin. And he says, of course, and signs a napkin and hands it to her. He says, that'll be 80,000 euro. Or not euro back then, but
whatever it was, yeah.
She says, what do you mean? She says, you just signed a napkin. And he basically said, madam, that took me a lifetime.
That's right. So it's a good point, isn't it? I mean, you shouldn't be doing freebie jobs because you feel bullied into doing them. I think, as you say, let's say you've got to have some criteria. And if you decide, though, that you do want to do it for whatever reason, then I think you should do it with the right attitude.
Correct.
Don't do it begrudgingly. If you agree, what I found in the past for me was I would say yes because I couldn't say no, and then I'd begrudgingly do stuff. And I'd do a slack job at it because I was doing it begrudgingly, as opposed to saying, right, embrace it fully, just accept that you're doing this and why you've chosen to do it. It's an interesting concept. I hear a lot of people kind of, I guess, complaining, or there's this expectation that if someone's doing it for free, it should be it doesn't matter if it's not quite the same standard, or if
that's
it's
not true.
It's like people that volunteer for not-for-profits. Again, to use that as an example, I've sat on many, many committees and all the restaurants. So look, the fact that you're donating your time is fabulous, and I really appreciate it, and the charity appreciates it, but it doesn't mean we can do a half-assed job.
No.
We've still got to do an extraordinary job.
Exactly
Treat it
right.
like you would do normally. Don't go, well, we're really nice people, so we can be slack. That's, I guess, where I was kind of coming from.
I like the allocation, the idea of an allocation of free time. If you're happy to do some free stuff each month as a business, then allocate it. It's like for me with charities. I have 3 charities that I give to. When other charities call, I say, look, as much as I admire what you do, I've got 3 that I give to, and that's it. So you can stand up straight and be comfortable with what you got to say. Great topic, Griffo. Juggling the need for consistency and inconsistency in business is a topic that you want to talk about, which made me raise the question, at what point is inconsistency something that should be juggled or factored in?
I'm kind of talking a bit around this topic a little bit more of late, and just reviewing what modern consumers are after, and I guess that's what made me kind of raise this idea. We all get consistency. We like consistency, when we're dealing with a business. We like the fact we're dealing with the same kind of person. We like the fact of going into a restaurant and something's familiar, or Bill's Auto Electrics. We know that Bill's there and he does a good job and all the rest of it. But one thing that has really changed a lot in the last few years is this wonderful desire for inconsistency, or to use another word, is new and different. And that's that whole point of, in business, we have to be bringing in new products, new ideas, new services, new, because of this concept of newism. So where's that balancing act between making sure we're consistent in some areas, but we're inconsistent and new in other areas? And that's a really interesting kind of a topic, and a difficult topic for people to get their head around.
Bit of a brain twister for me. Is inconsistent the right word?
Well, it is, because and again, I've thought long and hard about that as well, because the inconsistent is really, I think it's a way of describing being different all the time. So if you're inconsistent, the definition of that is constantly changing, either good or bad. But you want to be constantly changing or introducing new things for good, I would imagine. But in the modern world that we live in, again, to use that very makes you sound old kind of term, inconsistent is really one of the elements of new businesses, young businesses, fresh businesses, where they're actually trying new things all the time. This whole concept of break more stuff.
I still wonder whether it's the right word. I'm not attached to it. Is it constantly evolving? Is that what you're kind of adding new things, maybe one-offs tactically, or
anything? It doesn't really matter. It's just I don't believe. I just think that we need to be having a balanced mix of the standard expectation stuff that we can manage, as well as the stuff that surprises our customers. Because this comes back into that concept of being beige, blending into the background, et cetera, where consumers, and we know straight away that what we all want is we want new, and we're being taught, we're being retrained to want new products, services, etc. Just have a look at the toothpaste shelf in any store. Just have a look at, changing menus. Just have a look at the packages being offered by telecommunication companies. Everything changes all the time, and that's, as consumers, we're being trained for that, and to look for new, because if a business doesn't have new stuff on offer, it again fades a little bit into the background. I see a lot of businesses, and I mean, when I think back to doing business, when my first little business 30-odd years ago, it was drummed into me by the former owner that everything's got to be consistent. Where all the tanks go has got to be there. The dive course is the same. The products are the same. So for the years, we just had the same masks, the same. Even though new products came along, you changed them once a year. You didn't change them every few months. And it was intriguing for me to do a dive trip recently, watching some whales up on the Coral Sea, and
they might have been watching you.
Well, there's a few people had a bit of trouble differentiating, there, and Greenpeace were on site to make sure I didn't get harpooned. But it was interesting to see all the gear and all the rest of it, and again to have people talking about this conversation of going back to their dive shop all the time to find out what's new, but they go back to the same shop because that's consistent. It's an interesting point.
I get what you're saying. I think it's certainly a marketing strategy. It's not a mandatory, because I'll tell you, I'll tell you why. One thing that comes to mind, I was in Queenstown, New Zealand last week, and I am I so want to interview this guy. I haven't chased him down yet, but there's a cafe there called Ferg Burgers. I talked about it last week on episode 200, but it's just they have lines around the corner, Griffo. It is not unusual to wait an hour in the queue before you order, right? And they haven't changed their menu for eons, for as long as they've been. It's just been the same consistently good burger. So I think there's horses for courses. There's different ways of doing it.
But your point is right there. But again, we both know that's a very unusual business.
It is.
Like I saw a show recently about a place in somewhere in southwest of the States. I can't remember where it is now. People queue for 3 to 4 hours to get this barbecue. You're like, who the heck is going to queue up for 3 to 4 hours?
What's it for?
Barbecued meat.
Wow.
And
Must
they walk down the line. I saw it on Anthony Bourdain's show, and the lady is going down the line, which is, of course, is enormous, and saying, queue 1 hour here, 2 hours here, 3 hours here. You may not get in here. There may not be anything left. Imagine 4 hours in queue, and you don't get any food left. So they are extraordinary.
Yeah, they are. They're one-offs, and you don't see that very often. And there's a tipping point where all of a sudden it's no longer about the burger or the barbecue, whatever it is. Yep. It's about being part of that queue and about saying you've been in that queue and being able to talk about it. Weird. I hope to get him on the show.
Interesting guy. But you're right, but the point I guess I'm making is we were so much about everything's got to be consistent. I do believe now we have to function and factor in that we need to be inconsistent enough in terms of trying new stuff, introducing new products, introducing new services, because I think that consumers have an appetite for that kind of stuff. And if we don't bring in new, we do tend to be seen to be a little bit staid, and people are attracted to the shiny lights. And that's why, again, that something new opens, new product offering. Never before have people been so open to trying new. And that's an interesting thing that so many companies now are struggling with. The big companies are trying to figure out. People will try new stuff dramatically. We've got to kind of adopt that in there. So it's just a passing thought, mate. Put it in the forum. I'd be interested to get some feedback.
I will, mate. Well, they will. Inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum, they talk about each episode. And I get good feedback. I get constructive feedback. What could be done better. Nice. What people like. So I love that. Hey, Griffo, that brings us pretty much to the end, buddy. I can hear those monkeys getting a little bit out of control. They're hungry. They need a feed. So I think we need to get out of here. It's been a wonderful episode of Funny Business, getting back together again. We should do this more often, mate.
Mate, I always love it. Great to be able to chat. Thank you to the listeners and everyone who I run into in the street. As I said, I cannot believe how many people come up to me at a conference and go, I'm a big fan of that. And, of course, most of them also do say that, Andrew, you're much funnier than Timbo.
No, they don't. I know they don't. There was a point where that whole thing, you lost the plot then. Hey, Griffo, I love you, mate. Net Registry, get your online marketing sorted, team. Head over to netregistry.com.au. It is an absolute joy to have 99 Designs on board as the new sponsor. By the way, farewell to Swiftly. Swiftly are still a part of 99 Designs, so they haven't disappeared at all. They are still well and truly around, but 99 Designs have taken the Small Business Big Marketing baton. That's what you do in a relay. You pass it on. And remember, they can get you lots of design love guaranteed at 99designs.com/SBBM for your free power pack. Upcoming guests, Griffo. I've got a travel blogger, living the dream. Living the dream, travelling the world, blogging, making some coin at the same time. I've got a psychologist who's built a very successful practice very quickly from the ground up. Still chasing down the fellow from Freezer Burns who is making a very good income by reviewing frozen food. And a whole lot more. Amazing how people make money.
People doing amazing things out there, aren't they? I love those stories. I love listening to the show.
Haven't even scratched the surface. Listeners, I'll see you inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. That's where the marketing discussion continues day in, day out. Until then, may your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.